see. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of I'll Start on Monday. Today's guest is Steve Wright, a coach and host of the One-to-One Thing podcast. Steve works with high-achieving professionals who look successful on paper but secretly feel exhausted and stuck, what he calls stuck at mile 5. So instead of pushing harder or chasing motivation, Steve focuses on sustainable change through accountability, identity, and his VIVE methodology, which is vision, identity, belief, and execution. With a background spanning more than 30 years in IT leadership, coaching, NLP, counseling, strategies, and Steve brings a refreshingly grounded perspective on why so many capable people struggle to follow through on the changes they keep postponing, often until Monday. So I'm really excited for this conversation because I suspect many of you are going to recognize yourself in this one. So welcome, Steve, and thank you for being here today.
This what an intro. Thank you thank you very much. It's funny when you hear the things that you do being read out, you go, "Oh, is that me?"
Yes, it is.
But that's true. I will explain mile 5 because it sounds kind of strange, stuck at mile 5. But it's great to be here with you, and I'm glad we didn't start on Monday. We're here on Sunday, so
Yes,
we've got to
we
jump
are.
on the week.
Yes, we did. Very true, very true. So, yes, explain a little bit of that stuck at mile 5. And I think the mythology vibe is just so incredible. I was like, wow, that's so smart.
Uh, smart is nice, but usable and actionable is much better.
Yes.
So yeah, so thanks for that. But yeah, the mile 5 came from back in. It's been a while now, actually. Gosh, yeah, I'm embarrassed. It's 20 years since I ran my first marathon. I did my first 40K at 40,
Wow.
and part of that was I read a book. I wanted to do the run, and I read a book about marathon running, and the main thing I got from it. I mean, there's lots of ideas about how to train and setting up your training, but the main thing I got from it was two things. One, you buy two pairs of training running shoes at the same time.
Yes.
Um, because you alternate your shoes.
Yes.
And the other thing is when you run the race, don't wear anything new.
Oh, yeah.
which which I saw someone break that rule and they suffered for it, the chafing and all that
Oh,
stuff. But
oh, yeah.
anyway, but part of
Ouch.
the routine of getting the miles in to run a full marathon, 26 miles, is that you've got to, you end up doing pretty long runs. And no matter how long the run is, you always have to get through the first 5 miles. And
Yes.
I had a playlist that was a lot of it featured Lauren Hill at the time. She was big then, and
Yes.
she had a really really cool sort of acoustic track. This is after the Fugees, and I used to know exactly how far I'd run based on the track that was being played. And
Wow.
and that was it kind of helped me through the mile 5 because
Hmm.
there's a point where you've got out the door, you've started the run, you sort of checked in with yourself. It's going to be a long one, 7,
Yes.
10, 12, 15 miles, and you've got to get to mile 5. Once I get to mile 5, everything's good. Everything's sort of running on sort of almost autopilot.
Yes.
You're in the zone. All of the cobwebs have been shaken off, and you're ready
Yes.
to go. But that metaphor kind of stuck with me in terms of, sometimes our journey requires us to learn something new, and we've got to get
Yes.
beyond mile 5, whereby it becomes sort of a bit more ingrained.
Yes.
Not perfect, but ingrained, and you're ready to put in the reps. You're ready to put in the
Yes.
time to get you to whether it's a half marathon or your long run.
Yes.
But mile 5 has always been a thing for me. Get to mile 5,
I
and the
love
rest of
that.
it will take care of itself.
That's such a great story. Oh my gosh, that is so nice. Yeah. I think with anything, I mean, with anything that all of us do, I mean, we all want to grow, we want to evolve in our life. And I think that with anything, we have to start, something new. We always want to challenge ourselves. So we want to start learning something new or doing something. And with anything, there's always a learning curve to it.
Mm.
And that's basically the mile five, right? To,
Yeah.
to learn that and the repetition part of it. And it's really sticking it out for those few days. It's like with anything else. I know, like when I stopped smoking, for instance, it was the first couple days were hard.
Yeah.
And same with when I stopped drinking coffee. Oh my gosh, that that headache was like awful. But I was like, no, I just have to push through. I just have to push through. And I think it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of segues into the vibe methodology.
Mm-hmm.
And it, it's not my unique
Oh,
methodology. It's something that I shared with I was introduced by another coach that I work with, and uh, Jeremy Pope, and in his workshop we spend a lot of time on establishing that key question. Joseph asks the question all the time: "What do we
what do you
want?"
want?
And being able to articulate that in a way that is a compelling vision.
Yes.
It has to create something that is not just a something that you write down, and that's good to write it down, but it's got to be something that it goes beyond
Yeah.
the pin board or the vision board even.
Yes.
It's something that all of your senses needs to be engaged in, and you see yourself in that scenario,
Yes.
in that situation, to make it compelling. And that's the V of the vision.
Yes.
um, it ties into one's identity, because
Yes.
usually when you arrive at the place that you're aiming for, you're not the same person that
Right.
started
Oh,
out that
yeah.
journey. So identity is key. And then along the way, you're building up and breaking down beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
things that are holding you
Beliefs.
back.
Yep.
Again, the metaphor for running is so, I never saw myself as a runner. I was 39 and I wasn't a runner. And at 40 I was a runner.
Wow.
And that was an identity that I embraced. And that requires you to break some beliefs
Yes.
and build some new ones,
Yes.
because uh, we can't live in a vacuum. So nature hates vacuums, so you've got to fill it with something.
Yes.
And then the final part of that is, once you've got the identity and belief and a compelling vision, you have to execute on it. So
Yes.
you got to get up, do the miles, eat the food, you know, do the laundry, change the shoes.
Yep.
you've got to you have to execute. And
Action.
again, and I guess the other E could be ecology.
Mm.
It has to be done in an ecological way.
Yes.
If you tear up your life to run a marathon, then even if you finish it, it's really not a ecological solution. If
Right.
it's cost you more than it promised by doing the action.
That's
So
true.
our execution has to be ecological.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I that's so intelligent. And but that's just the way that, in all of our teachings, what we do.
Mm.
And especially like for me with people with diets, right? I say diets don't work because it is like you start and you finish. And it's not
Yeah,
about that. And that whole vibe mythology really taps into that is that you want to create a lifestyle that's going to be sustainable.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think it's the same with anything else that we do, any change that
yeah.
we create.
That's true. And often the first three letters of the word diet is often the clue.
I would think so, but a lot of people don't recognize that.
Well, you leverage it in terms of thinking, oh, if I don't stick to this, I'll die, or it's gonna cost me my life to stick to this.
Yeah.
And both of those are extremes on a pendulum swing that
Yes.
isn't going to help you get better. Um,
No.
so really, yeah, yeah, lifestyle choices, identity shifting,
Yes.
being the person that you want to be and looking the way you want to look. Um, we all have the body we deserve
Yes.
to some degree,
Yes, I agree.
notwithstanding sort of physiological or biological issues with our
Right, I
body,
agree.
but generally, you know, we are a result of those actions.
It's sadly true. Yes.
We wish it was different
So,
sometimes.
sometimes, yeah, and I that's why I totally understand why people want to do a diet because it's temporarily. They think it's temporarily, and they do lose some weight on it.
Mhm.
I don't argue that. You will lose weight on it, but if you don't, you can't sustain that intense pace, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Forever. And I think that's where the downfall of a diet happens is that you can't sustain it. So you're going to, of course, go back to old ways if you
Yeah.
haven't changed it gradually or whatnot. And,
Yeah.
and that's with anything else. Like if we started to create a new change for ourselves, like and we want to be more disciplined, for example. Or we were recently talking, well, Steve's a good buddy of mine, so we were recently talking about starting a challenge,
Mhm.
a social media challenge. And I think we were talking about, starting something new, and that means to be disciplined, to be able to do something every single day, to post something on
Yeah.
social media every day. That's discipline. But that
Yeah.
also goes back to, how you have to create something that you can do that's going to be sustainable, like you were
Sustainable.
talking about. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot in there. I mean, there's part of that part of that building. It reminds me of the scripture that says, that you have to count the cost. You don't start building a tower if you don't have all the materials to finish the job. Um,
That's true.
and that's straight out of the Bible. So um, that underpins the understanding what it takes to have something be done.
Yes.
And we talk about lifestyle choices, and this is ironic, or not ironic, but I'm vegan.
Yes.
I'm a plant based eater for 6+ years now,
Wow.
and it was a decision that was taken, I guess, on the face of it, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I literally had watched a few documentaries that kind of landed with me on in the right way. They weren't shock and awe as much as I identified with the two doctors
Mm.
that were presenting the material, and they were well into their 80s, very vibrant, very active, and they were walking the talk, and it was them walking the talk that drove me, that
Yes.
kind of inspired me more. And I tell people I went cold tofu, cold, because it was pretty quick. I mean, I literally sort of said, okay, it's today, and took things out of my sight in the
Mm.
fridge and the
Yes.
pantry, although other people in the house were still meat eaters. So it wasn't a matter of changing everybody. But that first inertia was tough, leaving the gravitational pull
Yes.
of eating food that's got animal content in it, was tough. But the vision was compelling enough to break through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was really the key. If you've got a vision that pulls you
Yes.
rather than something that is pushing you, don't be shooting yourself. Don't be
No.
musting yourself into trying to do something. If you're being pulled through, then
Yes.
that's a more sustainable way to do it. And
Yeah.
then again, even like the metaphor of going into space, once you get away from the gravitational pull, the atmosphere in space is a lot lighter, and it takes a lot less energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is now you really have to lean into identity and belief,
Yes.
because every day you're executing, every day you're making the choice. Every
Yes.
time I walk into a restaurant, every time I walk into a supermarket, I'm making the choice every day.
Yeah.
And you only make those choices sustainably when you have strong identity and belief.
That is so true. It's so
Because
true.
otherwise you're tempted every time. I like ribs. I like, and people talk, I'm not phased when people talk about food, and I do remember some of those things. And they're nostalgic to me now,
Hmm.
so, but at the same time, every day is a choice, and you choose to execute wisely.
That's true. I think it's with anything that any change that we decide to make with ourselves to improve ourselves is that. Because it's funny because I was just thinking about my smoking. I don't even I don't even think to have another cigarette, and I think it's because now I identify as a non-smoker
Yeah.
and it doesn't even occur to me, but I remember the cravings and the pull that it had when I was a smoker.
Mm, mm,
Yeah. So I totally understand that, the belief system and having that compelling vision of becoming, my reason for that was because of health. I
mhm.
wanted to live to over 100. So you're not gonna, I mean, maybe you can, but in most cases, it's probably safest to say don't smoke to, get
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah, yeah, you might
yeah.
you might get there on paper, but it wouldn't look half as pretty as it does with without.
Yes, exactly. And I think the health part, I wanted to live to over 100. If I could get to space, I would love to get to space. That's another thing of mine. So,
Oh.
all these dreams that I have. And I think in order to get there are things that you have to do, steps that you have to take. And
Mm,
I think that's with anything that we do. Now, um, yeah, so I think that's wonderful. And I love what you've done with that. And I know you have different programs that you do as a coach and you're offering recently. Um, and I just thought it kind of ties into the I'll start on Monday theme of not procrastinating a lot. So I kind of wanted, yeah, audiences to find out a little bit more about that.
sure. I mean, I like the premise of your show, the start on Monday, because I've done that a couple of times this week. It doesn't have to be Monday. It could just
Yes.
be I'll start on dot dot dot,
So,
and you find yourself rationalizing the delay.
yes.
And I'm a very good procrastinator. I'm a technologist, so I will use shiny object syndrome to derail me. I'm a Virgo and a perfectionist. Oh, we are
We're
Virgos.
both revoke. Yeah, we
We are
actually
Virgos.
share a birthday.
Yeah.
Literally.
Literally. We're hours apart.
Yes, yes,
Um, and so that perfectionism kicks in and says, "Oh, well, I can't possibly start because it's not ready yet," you know.
yes,
Um, so there are so many things that happens in that respect. And for me, it's been interesting. 2025 was probably one of my epoch years. It was a year that was special to me in lots of ways, and uh, and I think primarily when I look back at 2025, I think of it because I had 4 years in that one calendar year.
yes,
I read the book, The 12-Week Year. Um, Great book, and really leaned into um, not so much the power of the sprint, because a lot of it is very business-like and very agile, sort of sprint-focused quarterly things. And I really took away the periodization. I leaned into my 12 weeks being like 12 months.
yes,
So much so that I called every week of the program the month of the
month.
year.
Yes,
Um, so that really did kind of consolidate things. I had 4 Christmases in 2025. I had goals. I had 4 Januaries where I can make the
yes,
resolutions.
yes,
I had a shorter timeline, which meant that I could be more focused on the goal. and feel like I can really get behind it and feel like it's achievable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a year can be too long to have to set goals in January. People go, oh, I'll wait until February, and then all of a sudden they're into March and April, and they're going, well, I didn't even start. What's the point? So
Yes.
it really changed. Big things, big milestones. My mum turned 18. We planned a trip to Paris and Rome, two cities we both love. And and I finished the 2025 with being in Jamaica with her and my
Yes.
one of my daughters, and that was just special. And those things happened because they were planned,
Yes.
they were envisioned,
Yes.
they required an identity, belief, and execution. And then part of that is that I started a cohort. I did it by myself the first part half of the year, and then people
Yes.
saw what I was doing and said, "Oh, you know what? I'd like to do that with you." Um, and so I've sort of formed a group, a program around it called the Accountable Action Intensive. And also I've got a subtext on that, which is my year in months,
Yes.
MYIM. And I've got that domain, domain name registered. So I'm I'm going to
Nice.
be promoting it in that way because it really is a matter of looking at your year in months.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not breaking the year into quarters. I'm actually looking at each period as a complete element in itself. It gives you the chance to experiment. It gives you the chance to be playful. It gives you a chance to have a goal that is on a near horizon rather than a distant one.
Yes.
Um, you go to a job interview and someone says, "Well, where do you want to be in 3 years?" Or 3 to 5 years, and you go, "I don't even know what I'm doing next week, let alone what I'm doing in 3 to 5 years." My 3 year goal, I have 3 year goals,
Of
and they will
course.
happen in 2026,
I know.
which is beautiful, which for me is beautiful. So I can start on Monday. I choose when I start. If
Yes.
I don't start on a Monday, the next Monday is a month away.
Yes.
So there is a leverage that is pulled that
Yeah.
says,
Oh, yeah.
man, I can't waste too many Mondays because that's
Mm-mm.
my year. So all that to say, that's the program actionable. It's accountable action intensive AAI, but I'll probably be shifting that name to my year in months. I think
Yes.
it lands better, and
Yeah.
it focuses on the periodization. I'm not about compressing time. I'm not about trying to squeeze a year into a quarter. I don't think that really works. That bubble will burst really quickly in terms of
Yes.
fooling ourselves. But if we take a much more sustainable way of considering what we don't have to work in calendar years where it
It's
doesn't
true.
serve us. Sure, I have to show up with you on a date and a date and a time, and I can't fool that. But notwithstanding those sorts of requirements, there's no reason why I can't think about my
Agreed.
New Year's resolutions
Yeah.
in a 12-week window as opposed to a 12-month one. So and I love it. It works. Even if no one joined me on the cohort, I'll be doing this. So this is not a matter of me pushing something that I show up as the guru and show up as the coach. I'm
Yeah.
doing it anyway. You're just on the
Yeah.
bus along
Yeah.
with me as a fellow passenger.
That's true. And like I said, Steve's my buddy, so I knew Steve when he first started doing this, and I know for a fact that he has been following this, and it's been very successful for him.
Yeah.
So, and I know other acquaintances that have joined him in this journey. So it is something that is doable, and it's really a new spin or a new way of viewing what a calendar month is, what a year is.
Yeah.
And sometimes taking that new perspective on things can shift the way that you do things and the way you
Yeah.
achieve things.
Yeah. Again, this is sometimes the goal. It's interesting that my most compelling driven goals were not financial. They were things that brought joy to my heart. They were things that were feeling fulfilling.
Hmm.
And for me, that's big because that's really when you're making the choice as to whether to start on the Monday or not, then th those are the thoughts that will get you up and
Yes,
get you going.
yes,
Um, and also they're much more inspirational. They're nicer to share than sort of saying, "Oh, I hit my quarterly target." That's great. I'm not knocking those things because those are important. And if a monetary or financial or business objective opens opportunities for other things in your life, then
yes,
100% go for it. But the year into months is really a matter of getting away from the agile sprint speak in
yes,
business and thinking about, man, I would like to have 4 Christmases. I would like to experiment this year and try something new,
yeah,
knowing that I can review it at the end of the year and still feel like there's some runway, you know.
there is, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's beautiful. So
Mm,
thank you so much for sharing with us today, Steve. And so, I'd like to welcome you back another time to get
love to.
deeper. Maybe after, I don't know, year two or something, we'll have you back.
You'll see me next year. You'll see me next year. I've got yeah, people can reach out to me, DM or
Yes,
contact me,
yes.
and we've got the next cohort will be kicking off in March. So
So, oh, yes,
it'll be exciting
definitely.
to
Yeah.
have people come along and check us out.
Yeah, that would be great. And I think it's compelling because it really does help you to shift the perspective on, the whole when we get stuck on starting on Mondays, right? That feeling of procrastination. So I think that's a wonderful solution.
Mm,
And I'm sure, some of you that are listening will probably hear something that'll agree with you or it'll hit you and say, hey, this is something I want to do. So yes, please reach out to Steve if that is the case. So,
right.
so before we wrap up, I just want to leave you with this. If something Steve said, yeah, reach out to him and really, you know, if you're tired of saying I'll start on Monday and you're ready to understand why you keep getting stuck and how to shift it, I'd love to invite you to join me on more episodes or even join me on my Facebook group. And we could talk about rewiring the brain and rebuilding trust in your body and creating changes that actually are sustainable and actually are lasting. So you'll find links to my show below and everything else for me and Steve down below. And remember, nothing magical happens on Monday. Change starts when the moment you choose differently. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you for everyone for watching. Thank you, Steve, for being here
Thank-
today.
Thanks for having
And
me.
yes, and goodbye.
Thank you.